volunteering? What does volunteerism mean to you?
Well, to me, volunteerism is kind of just contributing to something that's greater than myself. And unlike, we say we are trying to contribute to something greater than ourselves on our resumes, but this is kind of in its purest form because there's no ulterior motives. It's just purely doing something because you want to help other people. It's compassion. It's purest form.
How did you come to volunteer at the soup kitchen?
Well, I remember I was in church one Sunday morning because it is a religious story, and we were reading the biblical verse about Lazarus, or Lazarus. I don't know. It was one biblical verse where there was a man who didn't lead a bad life. He was pretty wealthy, and he had this beggar outside his door who he just ignored his entire life. And then when they both died, the beggar, of course, went to heaven, but the other guy went to hell because he didn't help the beggar. And I used to think, well, that sounds a little harsh, but I kind of got to thinking about how if we are truly Christian, or even truly human for that matter, we need to help our fellow man in that sense, and that was probably how he ended up in hell. He wasn't a bad guy, and not that I think if I don't volunteer I'll go to hell or anything like that. I like to think I lead a decent lifestyle, but it just got me thinking about how much I ignore even just something that's outside my front door. Like, hunger is a very real problem, even in the United States, that we don't acknowledge, and if I could even just help some people in that sense, then I figure I'm doing a good thing. And
responsibilities as a volunteer?
Well, first off, I'm the one that's in charge of driving the soup kitchen van. So basically that means I go to the CCM building and I just wait for everyone who's going to volunteer to go ahead and gather. We're supposed to leave technically at 3:45, but it's courtesy to wait 5 minutes in case someone's late maybe. So then we just, or at least I drive the van up to Blessed Sacrament Church, and that's when we do that's when we coordinate with the other families that are volunteering there, and they're the ones that are usually in charge of cooking the food, and they'll give us small tasks usually, like cutting vegetables and maybe making salad. Some of us have stirred a few cans of soup before, sometimes beans, depending, because meals do vary. We also get the drinks prepared, and as soon as that's all done, if they, depending on preference, sometimes we'll set the table as well, so we'll go ahead and do that. And at about 4:30, the doors will open, and that's when all of the people will come and go and eat. And if we have a surplus of volunteers, some of us will be serving at the table. So for instance, if we're like serving sloppy joes, we'll have someone pass out the buns, and then someone else will be there spooning in the meat, and then another person will maybe be there to pass out chips. And that's really to make sure that everyone gets equal amounts of food. And then of course, we'll stay up there in case people come up for seconds. But if there's a ton of us there, some of us will stay in the kitchen, and in the kitchen we'll start the cleanup process. Like if someone leaves early, which does happen quite often, they'll drop off the forks and the knives and the spoons and anything else, and we'll start cleaning those. And then I think most of the work does start afterwards when everyone has their food. We'll try to regulate the cleaning up, but a lot of times we do eat with the people sometimes, and we'll go ahead and just talk to them just so they can have someone listen to them and just interact, especially if there's someone alone. That's something that we usually do. As soon as everyone's done eating and everyone is left, the cleanup responsibility begins. And we have a team in the kitchen who will be there, like I said, cleaning out the silverware and the dishes. And we'll have to clean those off by hand first and then stick those in the dishwasher, which is pretty nifty. And then we have people outside who are cleaning up the actual mess hall, I guess you'd call it. And this means scrubbing off tables, sweeping floors, and just making sure that all the food is out of the dining hall and into the trash. And we usually take out the trash last, and that's usually a wrap-up. And then after that, turn off the lights, make sure that no one is left in the church, because that would kind of be a horrifying experience. It's locked there all night. So as soon as we verified that, we go back to CCM through the van, and that's pretty much a typical day.
What was your best memory from volunteering?
I actually got a few, but I think one of the ones that I really, really remember stood out to me was sometime around Thanksgiving, I think it was, we had decided to, or at least the person who provided the food had provided an entire rack of ham, which is pretty cool because, the holidays. And of course, there was a lot of people there because it was the end of the month, and that's typically when we get the most clientele, I guess, if you want to call it that. And we were carving the ham, and just getting everyone set up, and it's kind of just a typical day, but everyone was so grateful to get it. It was just, they're always grateful because they always say thank you and they're very polite, but just for some reason this time, everyone was talking about how delicious the ham was and how good it was, and everyone kept coming back for seconds, and of course we had a surplus of ham, thank goodness. So that was always a good thing, but the fact that everyone was just, this is so delicious, it tastes just like mom's or homemade stuff, and it really pulled out my heartstrings for some reason, because I think in that moment I kind of realized about how much I myself take for granted and how grateful everyone is at this point to get something so close to a Thanksgiving meal, and it probably actually was as close to a Thanksgiving dinner a lot of those people would get. So that was definitely, when I realized that we had given that to them, that made me feel really good. So definitely a positive experience.